Erling Haaland is not human.
This man shoulder up and he's lifted it up for Haaland! Shoulder up. Haaland! Oh, wonderful! He has nailed it for Norway!
There are moments in football where you have to stop and appreciate that you are witnessing greatness. What this guy has been doing is historic. We are watching one of the greatest goal scorers of all time in real time.
When they needed Haaland, he appeared. They are a team with a guy that if you give him food in a 6-yard box, even now, outside of the box, Zlatan, he will eat. He's a shark.
Against Brazil, he reminded everyone why so many people think he's the best. For almost 80 minutes, Brazil actually did a pretty good job of keeping him quiet. Gabriel stayed tight to him, Alisson dealt with the few chances that came his way, and Haaland barely touched the ball. But when it comes to the Norwegian robot, he doesn't need much to do damage. He only had about 30 touches all game, yet 2 of them completely changed the match. His first goal was pure athleticism. He rose above everyone like a Viking, powered in a header, and left his arch nemesis Gabriel completely beaten. For newer fans, it's good for you guys to know that these two had beef at club level. Gabriel plays for Arsenal, Haaland plays for Manchester City, and these two teams are rivals. So, Haaland dunking all over Gabriel was very symbolic. Outside of the 2026 season, it's been a pretty one-sided rivalry. Then just minutes later, he picked up the ball outside the box, stood there like a nonchalant giant, and fired a perfect shot into the bottom corner. 2 chances, 2 goals, and the game was over for the Brazilians. This is what makes Haaland so scary. He doesn't need to dominate the ball for 90 minutes. In fact, if you watch the build up to his first goal, he was walking for like 90% of it. He can disappear for long stretches. Sometimes you'll forget he's on the pitch. Then suddenly he comes in and wins the game all by himself. We've seen it all tournament. It's exactly how he got a brace versus Iraq. It's how he got his brace against Senegal. Against Ivory Coast, his general play was even below his normal quality, and he still ended up getting a goal. Now, for people who have watched Haaland his entire career, this stuff isn't surprising. He had an insane scoring record in Norway, continued it in Germany with Borussia Dortmund, and then hit another level with Manchester City, shattering so many different Premier League records. A lot of people overlook that because City were already so dominant even before him. But you cannot ignore what he's been doing with Norway because it's even more impressive. He helped his nation come back to the World Cup for the first time in almost 3 decades. Like, we watched Norway get far, but you have to remember that the last time they were even at this tournament, Haaland's dad was still playing. And funny enough, that 1998 team with Alfie Haaland also beat Brazil. Now Norway has a new golden generation, and leading that charge is Erling Haaland. Norway's qualifying campaign was ridiculous. They won every single game, scored 29 goals in their first 6 qualifiers, and finished with a goal difference of plus 32. And one of the biggest reasons why was because of Haaland. He scored 16 goals in just 8 qualifiers, which was double the total of the next highest scorer in all of Europe. The guy is a cheat code. He scored against Estonia, he scored a hat-trick against Israel, he went to the San Siro and scored a match-winning brace against Italy. And this is the funny part, when Norway beat Israel 5-0, Haaland missed 2 pens and still finished the game with a hat-trick. It didn't matter if Martin Odegaard was injured. It didn't matter if Norway needed a goal, a leader, or someone to change the game. Haaland always delivered. Hat-tricks, headers, penalty, counterattacks. Whatever Norway needed, he found a way to do it. And this wasn't anything new either. Back at the Under-20 World Cup, he finished as Norway's top goal scorer and scored 9 goals in a single game against Honduras. He's been doing unbelievable things for years, but a lot of people never noticed. Since 2020, he's been one of the best players in the world, breaking records, scoring goals that didn't even look possible, and dominating every league he played in. The problem was that Norway kept missing the Euros and the World Cup. Most casual fans only watch these big international tournaments, so they never really got to see him. Hardcore football fans knew how good he was. Football Manager fans have known since like 7-8 years ago. But the average fan who only saw the occasional Champions League highlight or the World Cup was not seeing this greatness. Haaland was building one of the greatest striker resumes ever, but he was doing it away from the biggest stage in football. That finally changed at the 2026 World Cup. Now the whole world got to see what everyone had been talking about, and it's impossible not to enjoy him. He's built like a giant. He runs like a sprinter. He jumps like an NBA player, and he bounces defenders off of him like they're children. Like, the guy doesn't even look real. But what makes him so special isn't just his physical ability. Yes, he's a Viking, he's a giant, but his football IQ is really impressive. He's almost never caught offside, his movement is incredible, and he always seems to appear in exactly the right place at the right time. Like, yes, he scores a lot of tap-ins, that's his bread and butter, but that's because he knows exactly where to be. People used to criticize him at Manchester City because he didn't touch the ball much. He never cared. He knew his job wasn't to have 60 touches a game. He's not that type of player.
I should not be interrupting them too much with all the dribblings and passes, you know. I'm a striker, so I want to be in the box as much as possible. Of course, I don't want to go out on the side. What should I do there? You know, we have other players doing that, you know, so I'm not the one that's gonna create chances. I have my role in the team.
His job is to score goals, and he does it better than anyone. Even after dominating for City and winning the Premier League Golden Boot multiple times, some people still didn't realize just how special he was. But thankfully, international football changes the way players are remembered, and this World Cup completely changed the way people looked at Haaland. Everyone finally sees what football fans have been saying for years. This was the same player who became the Champions League top goal scorer at just 20 years old, reached 50 Champions League goals faster than anyone in history, and became the fastest player ever to reach 100 Premier League goals. This stuff is not normal. It's the kind of career only an all-time great striker has. Even back in 2023, some of Haaland's greatness got overlooked. That was a World Cup year, so a lot of attention naturally shifted there. On top of that, he dominated the early Champions League rounds, but didn't score in the semifinals against Real Madrid or in the final against Inter. Manchester City won the treble, but a lot of the praise went to Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, and even Pep Guardiola. Then of course when it came to the Ballon d'Or, Messi and Mbappe had been so good at the World Cup that they got talked about more than Haaland. Then in 2024 it happened again. Haaland won another Premier League Golden Boot and helped City win another league title. But the season became all about Rodri and Phil Foden. Haaland was still scoring for fun, but he never really got that defining global moment. The good thing is that's starting to change. At club level, he became the face of Manchester City, and the team now started playing more to his strengths. They became more direct, more aggressive, and more willing to attack quickly because they knew Haaland was almost impossible to stop when he had space to run into. Then came the World Cup. Finally, he was on football's biggest stage. Finally, the whole world was watching, and he completely took over the tournament. Like I stated, casual fans finally saw what hardcore football fans had been saying for years. We're not talking about just an elite striker. We're talking about one of the greatest goal scorers the sport has ever seen. Like, he might genuinely break Cristiano Ronaldo's all-time international goals record. For years, that number felt untouchable. It looked like one of those records that would stand forever. Then Haaland came along. Suddenly, that record doesn't seem so impossible anymore. I mean, the guy's averaging more goals than games for the Norway national team. His scoring rate doesn't even seem real. It looks like career mode numbers. In the World Cup qualifying alone, he tied Robert Lewandowski's record for the most goals in a qualifying campaign, despite playing fewer games. It didn't matter who the opponent was or what the situation was, he just kept scoring. If he keeps up this pace, there's a real chance that he's gonna break Ronaldo's record while barely turning 30. Even if his goal scoring slows down, he'll still probably reach it, and he's gonna do it in far fewer games than Ronaldo needed. That's why I keep saying he isn't human, and it's why Norway suddenly became a team that the rest of the world had to take seriously. He deserves all the recognition he's getting, and we've come a long way since his first season at Manchester City. Before arriving in England, Haaland had already spent 2.5 incredible years at Borussia Dortmund. He scored 86 goals in just 89 games and physically dominated every defender he faced. He was actually a different kind of striker back then. Dortmund relied on him for more than just goals. He carried the ball, created chances, and was much more involved in the build-up. He also broke the Bundesliga top speed record by hitting 36.04 kilometers per hour. The physical tools that once looked raw when he was younger had become his biggest weapons as he developed into one of the most unstoppable players in football. After a few seasons at Dortmund, everyone knew who Erling Haaland was, so the next step was obvious. It was time to join one of the biggest clubs in the world. Spoiled for choice, because Haaland could have literally gone anywhere, he decided to join Manchester City.
It does seem like everybody in world football is talking about him and would love him to sign for them.
I think that this guy can go anywhere and make things happen for anybody. Now it's him to pick and choose.
He's a striker that every big club in Europe has wanted to sign.
Yeah. For him, it was the perfect move. His dad played there, he had a connection to the club, and City had everything he wanted. They had the best manager in the world, one of the best squads in the world, and a team that created chance after chance every single game. The one thing they didn't have was a true number 9. For years, City had dominated English football, but they kept falling short in the Champions League. There was the shocking loss to Lyon, the defeat to Chelsea in the final, and several other painful exits. They knew they were missing one piece, and the hope was that Haaland would be that missing ingredient.
We cannot replace him. We cannot.
Of course, there was pressure from day one. Even with his incredible record in Germany, there were still people who doubted whether his game would translate to the Premier League.
No, it's pressure, of course. It's been pressure ever since I signed for City.
Those doubts only got louder after his first appearance in the Community Shield, where he missed a huge chance. City lost 3-1 to Liverpool, and people immediately started questioning whether he'd actually succeed in England.
Even when he was scoring all his goals at the start of the season, he's still well ahead in the top goal scoring ranks. But I think we're only seeing 60% of Erling Haaland. You think of that goal he scored at West Ham on the first game of the season, where there's space in behind, he makes that run. Now, I know that's not there that often because of the way City play, but he's come from a league in Borussia Dortmund where it's a counter-attacking league and it's end-to-end, and you see that blister and pace that he's got. We don't see it. And he may have actually picked the wrong club to actually get the best out of him. You're laughing, but what?
I'll never forget that. They were trying to say that Darwin Núñez was better than Haaland because of a Community Shield match. Naturally, those doubts lasted about a week before they aged like milk. As soon as the Premier League season kicked off, Haaland and Manchester City looked like a cheat code. He scored twice on his Premier League debut against West Ham. A few weeks later, he grabbed his first Premier League hat-trick against Crystal Palace. 4 days after that, he scored another one against Nottingham Forest, becoming the fastest player in Premier League history to reach 2 hat-tricks. Then he made it 3 straight home hat-tricks by tearing apart Manchester United, and the records just kept coming.
He may have actually picked the wrong club.
By the end of his first Premier League season, he'd matched Thierry Henry's record for the most goal contributions in a 38-game campaign. He won both the Premier League Golden Boot and the European Golden Shoe. He was just as unstoppable in the Champions League, finishing the competition with 12 goals and 1 assist, and doing exactly what City had signed him to do. He helped them finally overcome the obstacle that had haunted the club for years, and win their first ever Champions League, completing a historic treble. You would think that dominating what many people consider is the best league in the world during your first season would end all the criticism. Instead, people just found new things to complain about. The conversation shifted from whether he could score goals to whether he showed up in the biggest games. Even though he dominated the early rounds of the Champions League, there were games in the business end of the competition where he barely touched the ball, and suddenly that became the story. Even though he was in the Ballon d'Or conversation, it felt like a lot of people still didn't fully appreciate what he'd achieved. The criticism carried into the following season. People talked so much about his quiet games that you'd almost forget he won another Premier League Golden Boot and helped City win another league title. He scored 27 league goals despite missing a big chunk of the season through injury. But the only thing people seem to remember was his quiet performance against Real Madrid in the Champions League. Haaland had become a victim of his own success. When you reach the levels he reached so quickly, anything less than unbelievable suddenly felt disappointing. For most strikers, scoring over 20 goals is the best season of their career. For Haaland, it was just an average year. Like I stated earlier, a lot of that also came down to international football. Until 2026, he hadn't played at a major tournament, so millions of fans had never seen him do what he did every single week for Manchester City. Once he arrived at the World Cup, that changed almost overnight. We also have to remember that even when Haaland isn't scoring, he changes games. Defenders spend so much time worrying about him that it opens space for everyone else. Rodri's goal in the Champions League final against Inter doesn't happen without Haaland pushing back the defense. Those things don't always show up on the score sheet, but they make the entire team better. No matter where Haaland plays or who he plays for, one thing stays the same. You simply cannot stop this guy from scoring. Now in this video, I purposefully repeated that Haaland led Norway and not carried them, because the squad around him is very good. To see just how good, you have to watch this video right here.